This is a white piece of paper. If you put on tinted glasses, does it still look white to you? What about these color swatches on my color checker? Looking through tinted glasses, I bet none of these colors look the same. A monitor that is not color accurate is kinda like that. It's simply not capable of showing you colors and shades as they actually are, which is quite misguiding if you're relying on what you see on that monitor to make creative decisions like going for a certain color grade for your film or picking the right shade of orange for a dress that you're designing. Today I'm gonna tell you everything you need to know when buying a monitor as a creative professional. Your mother no teach? Never mind. I teach you lah. As you can see, this video is brought to you by ViewSonic, who sent over their Color Pro VP2776 for demonstration purposes. Everything that I say in this video is still relevant no matter what monitor you decide to get. But if you want to hashtag support local to see us make more content like this, then feel free to use the links in the description because this monitor is actually pretty great. Or you can just subscribe lah. That always helps. Anyways, we've actually already made a similar video back in 2021. This is just an updated guide for 2023 considering all the upgrades that we are seeing in these newer monitors. In case you're wondering if this video has anything to do with you, when I say creative professionals, I'm talking about everyone who uses their creative skills and juices to make a living. You can be a designer, filmmaker, architect, and whatnot. So if that's you, then just stay tuned because I'm about to drop some knowledge bomb about that one piece of equipment in your kit that just might help you level up your work. Let's just get right into it. The right monitor size and resolution for you mainly depends on two things. Number one, the type of work you do. Number two, the optimum viewing distance, which is physically restricted by your workspace. These days, if you're just going for one monitor, I will always recommend a 27-inch 1440p monitor like this VP2776 because it hits a sweet spot in terms of size and value for money. Also, this standard 16:9 aspect ratio gives us plenty of screen real estate, horizontally and vertically. As an example, if you're editing a video in Premiere Pro, you can have your timeline at the bottom in a long strip so you can crop easily. Then you can have your viewing window on top as well as your effects control and scopes. Pretty easy to navigate. For a 27-incher like this, I recommend sitting back 2 to 2.5 feet. Any closer and you're gonna start noticing them individual pixels, which is not pretty. Alternatively, if you have the money, you can always go for a 32-inch 4K monitor. And if you are on a budget and you are pinching pennies, you can always go for a 24-inch 1080p monitor that will do the job just fine. Sometimes for a special case like you, who has a narrow desk and you need to sit very close to the monitor, but you still very difficult prefer a big monitor, then I recommend a 27-inch 4K monitor that is usually slightly more expensive. But in this case with the VP2756 4K, because it's using a lower spec panel, it's actually cheaper than this VP2776. Yeah, happy for you. Like that lor. Get it? Most creative workflows can benefit from having a multiple monitor. Some workflows like color grading in DaVinci Resolve can hugely benefit from having a multiple monitor setup, which I still prefer today over having an ultra-wide monitor because of a few reasons. Number one is the fact that you can easily manipulate your secondary and primary monitor into whatever position you want. You can even turn one into portrait mode, which is very useful for illustrators that draw portraits and also photographers that are editing portraits. Number two, if you want to satisfy everybody who's watching your videos, you can have different types of monitors. You can have an OLED panel right there and then an IPS panel right here so that you can double check your color grade. Double check. Get it? You can also triple. Oh my god, what am I doing? Just make sure that you have a desk that is big enough to support your monitor setup as well as all the different peripherals that you need to do your job. Can be mouse and keyboard if you are basic like me. It can be a color panel if you're a colorist, or it can be a tablet if you're Azrai who edits videos with a tablet. Why? You ask him lah. I just don't understand. There are 4 different types of display panels being used for monitors these days, and they are TN, VA, IPS, and the newly popular OLED. IPS like this one here and OLED are more color accurate than the other two, for the most part. Recently, we're seeing more and more OLED panels being used in monitors designed for professionals. And while it's true that an OLED panel will have better contrast because it's able to display true blacks, IPS panels are still more commonly used in most creative industries. For example, based on my conversations with multiple pro colorists here in Malaysia, the general consensus is that since most clients will be viewing their work on an IPS panel, it just makes sense to work on one to ensure that what they see and what the clients see is the same. One of the main issue of color grading on an OLED panel is that the fact that you might think that your image has enough contrast, but when you send it over to the client and they view it on an IPS panel, they will call back and ask you, why is the image so washed out? Why make it so hard on yourself? Cari makan only ma. Now I'm gonna explain the technical terms, color gamut and color accuracy. Color gamut is basically an indication of the range of colors that your monitor can display, while color accuracy is a measure of how accurately that monitor can display those colors. Basically, is the green on your monitor the same as the green coming out of the printer or not? And also, is the skin tone on your monitor same as the one people see on TV or not? Of course, their printer and TV also have to be color accurate and properly calibrated lah. I'm gonna just pull up this trusty diagram that I made. So color gamuts are commonly represented as areas on the CIE 1933 XY chromacity diagram. So the commonly used gamuts in ascending order in terms of width and coverage are sRGB for web and computer graphics, Rec 709 for HD TV, Adobe RGB for printed media, DCI P3 mainly for digital cinema, and Rec 2020, which is a new-ish 2012 UHD TV standard. Anything wider than sRGB is considered a wide color gamut. This VP2776, as an example, has a 95% DCI P3 and 100% Rec 709 coverage, which makes it very suitable for photo and video work. To measure the color accuracy of monitors, we have something called delta E. So the higher the delta E number, the further away it is from its true hue. For instance, straight out of the box, this ViewSonic VP2776 has an average delta E of less than 2, which means that the colors are very accurate and indistinguishable to most human eyes. After you calibrate your monitor, that calibration will not stay there forever and it will slowly shift over time. To ensure that your monitor stays color accurate, you'll need to calibrate it from time to time with something like our X-Rite i1 Display Pro, or if you have this monitor, you can save a few bucks because it comes with its own calibrator for free. And everybody likes free stuff. The client loves free stuff, so do you.
It's free!
See? I was also like, one thing that is sad but true about us creatives is the fact that we sit in front of our screens a lot. Like almost until our backbones also turn into dust already. That's why it's very important to have a monitor with good ergonomics. You want a stand like this that can swivel, tilt, and height adjust to get it to your most comfortable sitting position. You might also want the option to turn it into portrait mode. Next, you'll need to control the lighting environment in your workspace, which is especially important to people who deal with colors like colorists. If you have the budget, you can always paint all your walls 18% grey and only use high CRI or color rendition index lights that has a color temperature of 6500 Kelvin or 6500 Kelvin to match the D65 white point of a calibrated monitor. If you don't, then you can always go the ghetto way of turning your room into a dark room by turning off all the lights, but you might want to shine a light behind the monitor to reduce eye strain. The one that is pre-built into this VP2776 will definitely help. Or in a pinch, you can always use a hood like this and move your face closer to the screen to simulate the effects of working in a darker room. You also want to keep your monitor calibrated to a screen brightness that is suitable for your work environment. For example, if you're working in a dark room, I recommend calibrating it to 100 to 120 nits or candela per meter square, or go brighter if you're working in a brighter room, which is why for color crucial work, unless you're grading for HDR content, having a max screen brightness of 400 nits like this monitor is more than good enough. Just like professional chefs with their knives and various cookware, as a creative professional, you're going to have your preferred tool of choice. And depending if you're working off a desktop PC, laptop, Mac, or even tablet, you're going to need to output your display to the monitor. And having different connectivity options just means that you have the flexibility to switch between your devices on the go without plugging and unplugging your cables. For example, this VP2776 has a pair of HDMI 2.0 ports, one display port, and one USB 3.2 Type-C port with support for DisplayPort, wow, so many ports, and charging up to 90 watts, which is perfect when used with a laptop or MacBook. Another useful thing to have is of course that 3.5mm jack for you to plug in your headphones and a multitude of USB ports for you to plug in your peripherals without routing them all the way to your desktop PC to avoid the cable mess. Or just work with a messy desk, whatever floats your boat, whatever kayak your sampan. Okay, a few things to add. In terms of refresh rate, 60Hz is good enough for most people. Content creators and video editors, for instance, work with video content that are edited and published in 24p, 25p, 50p and 60p. But since smartphones these days also have a high refresh rate, you might be used to that smoother scrolling action in Facebook and whatnot. So having a 165Hz screen like this one here is going to feel a little bit smoother when you're doing things like that. Or you could finally fulfill the potential of that RTX 4080 in your PC that you tell your wife is used for work to pwn some noobs in Valorant. Jokes aside, the one benefit I see in having a PC these days is that you can both work and game in one machine. So having a monitor that can do both is always a plus. And that is everything I have to teach you in our Your Mother No Teach 2023 edition Creative Professional Monitor Guide. If you thought this video was helpful, don't forget to like and share. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions, but only if you are a creative professional. If you are not, our videographer Anthony said I cannot reply to you. Because he said you use iPhone shoot video, not pro enough. He say one, no I say one. I think any type of thing that have camera is also can shoot professional stuff lah.
Okay lah, later your video, your B-roll also I shoot with my iPhone lah.
Cannot bro, because your salary not 200.